Hey there, Richard. Thanks for attaching the box here so we can kind of go through and show you what's going on. Still don't know the context, so I don't know if you're doing a presentation file or you want to put it somewhere. So for this case, I'm just going to put it somewhere and kind of show you what we can do. So first thing, notice that it is an aluminum flat. So there's two different ones, cast, polish, anodized, light gray. So depending on what you want, so I'm assuming aluminum flats what we're going for. First things I usually start to do is start perspective. Just if you're going to make a presentation, might as well do perspective because it's more realistic. Shadows, because shadows in real life, and reflections. Now, first thing, settings on the shadows. You can turn these up, so basically make sure the hard shadows are soft. I usually put it somewhere in here, make it a little bit softer, and you can put more shadows or less. So do that. You can change the lighting, but I'm going to do that here in a different area. So save it. Okay. And go to my settings here. Now, reflections are down here, so you can have more or less. So I'm going to turn this down to like 9 and turn up the blur a little bit more so when it's actually on the ground, it blurs, and turn this up a little bit more. So it just kind of blurs everything out and a little bit less reflection. Make it a little bit more realistic unless you're on a really reflective surface. Two lights here. So I just leave this alone in this area because we're going to come into the Inventor Studio anyways. Do all the view stuff from inside the Inventor Studio, so that doesn't really matter. But I'm going to go to my Studio Lighting Styles and turn on my empty lab. And then turn our scene image. Now if you notice, the origin of your part is on the bottom of the box here, on the side of the box. So I'm going to go back into here and turn this top front. So now you can see that the actual orientation of it is that's the top, that's the front. So when we come back into the environments, it's now sitting actually on the table. So that's something to be aware of when you're making your parts and you want to bring it into the studio environment. If you set it up, odd, it won't sit right and won't be on the ground. You can change the ground level here in the view. Where's the here? So if you turn on the ground plane, it'll show up or not. I just leave it off, but that's just me. So you can kind of see where that is. So if we go back into the studio lighting styles, you can change the rotation of the part here. So if you don't want it flat to the table, or if you want in the background, let's say those test tubes and stuff like this. What's the scale? And rotation here. So I want to have that stuff kind of like this. In the shadows, turn these off, on, and global lighting styles. So for instance, you can go through all these really. Let's say we want it at night. Now it's in the ground. Put in the old warehouse. You get a deeper shadow. So things like that. Let's go back to the plain room. Or the, where was it? Empty lab. Okay, so now that we have that, if you actually hold down Control and Shift, and then roll your mouse button, It'll change the perspective. I don't know if anybody knows that, but you can really tweak it out or just go a little bit lighter. So that's just something, a little trick that you might know. So that's just something fun to play around with. And then if you start zooming in and out, it messes it up. So there's just a couple tricks. So if we go to our render image, and let's just change this to something a little bit more there. What I always do is, this doesn't really affect it a whole ton, the anti-aliasing. I just leave this alone for the start. Actually, change this to 20, and then I just render it. What that does is it gives you a brief preview of where it's located in space. Kind of lets you know what it's going to look like, what the orientation is, what the reflections are. And you're like, well, it's a little bit more reflective than I want. So I'm going to come back into here, go to my reflection settings, and I'm going to turn that off, and grid display off. And we're going to turn that down to 4% and turn the blur up and the fall off. A little bit more. Okay. Go back to my render and render it again. So now you see there's a little bit less of a reflection. So let's say if we wanted to, let's make a local light here. And let's have it come in right there. It's right here. And we can just drag this little guy over there. How does that look? Sure. Now if we wanted to, we can make that spotlight. And we can put a color on it if we wanted to. Let's make it yellow. Sure. Intensity, we can turn this up a little bit. All this stuff. So in general, okay. So if we come back to our render image, now if we wanted to, we had that picture, now I moved it, so now I don't have a reference of it. I'm like, oh man, I liked where it was. Just come over here, right click, create camera from view. So that camera, no matter what, if we're over here, just right click, set view to camera, and it'll always come back. So that way if you set up your scene and then you start messing with things and doing the cameras, you can always come back to this. So if we go back to render image, now you see that yellow light playing on it. So for right now, I'm going to go like this, 2000, and I'm going to go to lunch. So let's just turn this to the box, output, save the rendered image. Okay, so we got it saved under the desktop. Render, you can do it by render time and just go to lunch. I'm just going to do 2000 and go get something to eat and come back. Alright, so looks like here we have our picture. So here's our box. Don't know if that's pretty much what you were looking for as far as acceptable goes, but it has a nice little shadow here. It's got a light coming in. Looks somewhat realistic. If you wanted to, you could finish the studio. Okay, so let's do it another way. Gonna create an assembly and put our box in it. So again, it inserts it into here. So front, top. Okay. So what we can do is go to our create a part and just do it on the bottom here. Start sketch. There. That might be a little thick, but so what we're doing is making a floor. So you have here, you extrude it down 1 inch, okay? And then we change this to carpet, let's say. I don't know what I was doing. There we go. So now let's look at other flooring. Maybe some wood. There we go. That looks fun. Now let's do wall here and another wall there. Okay. That is new, so it'll be a its own thing. Stability, extrude this. New. Okay. So we can take this first one and make this stucco exterior beige, sure. And this one to yeah, sure, why not? It's pretty ugly, but you know, whatever. So then we return. So our box, then you can kind of move this around. What you can do, constrain the bottom of this to the bottom of that. So now you can move your box around. It always stay on the bottom. So depending on what you want your background to be, so there you go. And turn on your view, perspective. Okay, so here's our new view. Go to Environments, Studio, and render our image. So now we're getting a little bit more, realistic kind of look. Since we're now in the assembly environment, their shadows aren't on, reflections aren't on. We'll have to reset these things back up because now we're in a new environment. Density, softness. Let's make this a lot of shadows. And save and close reflections. And let's make a new light. So yeah, turn on the exposure. All right, so our light's turned up too high. Oh, I'm just getting crazy here. All right. Doing other stuff, but just come back and you can open multiple instances of Inventor. So you can have one rendering and one working. So that's a little workaround as far as, if you're thinking it's going to take too long and bog your stuff up, have one open and then work on another one. So that's a good workaround for that. So here's the final image. I'll post that in the thread as well. So that should help you get you going. If you have any specific, backgrounds, this is the easiest way to do it. Just, create 3 walls, or if you have a shop that you're actually in, you can take pictures of the shop on 4 walls. Um, and then as far as, let me show you how to do it. So if we come back into this part and create a sketch and turn off the view. So you can insert an image on this wall and then another image on this wall and an image on the ground, and so you have your box, and then you could hypothetically model up other stuff and then put it in there. So if you have a warehouse or a display, or you want your custom background for your company logo and things like that, you can just uh, create a sketch and So another way to do this is if you go to Tools, Application Options, Colors. All right, so if you change the background image to that, apply, close. So now we have our part, and we can bring it in. So if you wanted to, you could crop, this out a little bit, but let's just see if this works. So Studio Lighting Styles, we're going to turn off that, and let's use the old warehouse. There we go. Turn down the exposure a little bit. And where's your shadows go? Looks like the shadows are coming down this way. Okay, so another one, 2000, took about 15 minutes. Just let it run. Um, so if you have a less blurry background image, it'll look a little bit better, but you can see it kind of, kind of matches up with the shading and stuff like that. So if you have something that's a little bit more personal to what you have going on, that'd be a lot more helpful. Um, so hope that helps as far as that goes. Just a couple of little tricks. I mean, you can put the box over here. You can put a bunch of stuff up there. As far as that goes, again, Control Shift, you can kind of say, okay, well, I need to change the perspective, things like that. Yeah, so there you go.